The spoilers for Beyond the Gates, airing on Wednesday, March 11th, center on Vanessa's daughter, Deanna McBride, finally coming to visit her mother. Meanwhile, Kat takes care of Anita, and Mona catches Randy and Lynette doing something unsanitary. The key points to remember. Deanna McBride arrives at Fairmont Crest, and her reunion with Vanessa is anything but smooth. Could Joey's assignment accidentally touch on the secret Deanna has brought back? Is Bill being surrounded by suspicion from the outside or from within his own family? Kat steps in to help Anita as the whole family joins together to support her recovery. Mona catches Randy and Lynette in an awkward moment that could change everything. Fairmont Crest has never truly been peaceful, but this time the atmosphere inside that luxurious community carries a different shade, thicker and heavier. As though every perfectly trimmed row of trees, every gleaming glass window, and every spotless stone path is concealing a storm about to break loose. A daughter who has been absent for far too long suddenly returns at the exact moment when the cracks in several families are beginning to show. A man who thought he was only carrying out an ordinary investigation finds himself pulled deeper into a web of suspicion, scheming, and dirty connections he has not yet found the words to name. A woman sees something she was never meant to see, and that single moment is enough to strip away the final illusion she still held about a man who kept insisting he did not deserve her. At the same time, the strained smiles within Bill's family begin to harden into discomfort that can no longer be hidden, while inside Anita's home, a place that should have offered only gentleness and support, sincere advice may instead become the blade that forces a young woman to confront what she has spent so long trying to avoid. Everything is shifting, slowly yet violently, like a chessboard where no piece is still standing where it once was. Deanna's return does not feel like a reunion. It feels like a wound being sliced open through the thin layer of ice Vanessa has tried to build around her grief ever since Doug's death. Vanessa has spent weeks living with an aching emptiness, not only because she lost her husband, but because she also lost the presence of her daughter. The one who should have been the first to run home during the darkest moment of the family's mourning. Deanna's absence from the funeral left Vanessa with a deep injury she has never dared to name as anger, because every time the thought surfaced, it came tied to guilt. She does not know who her daughter has been fighting harder against, Doug's death, this family itself, or the mother she believes failed to tell her everything. So when Deanna finally steps back into Fairmont Crest, her arrival does not bring the relief Vanessa once dreamed of. Instead, it brings a weight that suffocates the entire room, as though the young woman has not come home to be embraced, but to look closely at everything that has been hidden. Deanna does not return with the appearance of a daughter who has healed. She comes back carrying the exhaustion of someone who has taken her pain too far and held onto it for too long, until it is no longer a wound that needs healing but a weapon she grips tightly to protect herself from weakness. In her eyes, missing the funeral was not simply an act of running away. It was a warped form of rebellion, a way of punishing the family for allowing everything to happen without giving her the chance to understand, to question, or to doubt. The farther she was from home, the more time she had to piece together the details she once overlooked. The strange silences in the stories told by relatives. Vanessa's awkwardness whenever she spoke of Doug's final days. The way Donald accepted the loss so quickly that, to Deanna, it seemed less admirable than suspicious. To her, the rapid calmness of certain people is not a sign of maturity, but evidence that something remains unsaid. And once that thought takes root, it grows into the quiet suspicion that Doug's death may not be as simple as everyone wants to believe. That suspicion changes the way Deanna looks at her mother. She no longer sees Vanessa through the eyes of a grieving daughter, but through the eyes of someone searching for weaknesses. What hurts Vanessa most is not her daughter's coldness, but the sense that Deanna is examining every reaction, every glance, every pause in her breathing. Vanessa both longs for her daughter to open her heart and fears the possibility that Deanna will ask exactly the question Vanessa herself does not want to face. She knows her child too well to believe Deanna returned home simply because she missed it. If she came back, then she came carrying something, a piece of information, a feeling, a warning from the outside, or worse, a belief that Vanessa has hidden the truth from her. That inner conflict inside Vanessa becomes unbearable. She feels guilty for failing to keep the family intact after such tragedy, yet at the same time she feels deeply insulted by the almost accusing way her daughter looks at her. Guilt and anger begin to wrap around each other, creating an instability that turns every attempt at reconciliation into something doomed from the start. While Vanessa is spinning inside the storm named Deanna, Joey is being drawn into a maze of his own. His recent conversation with Bill should have been no more than one link in the chain of ordinary work, just one part of the suspicions already hanging around Randy, Haley, and the connections no one dares to name out loud. But when Marcel suddenly assigns Joey a special task, everything changes color. Joey is used to vague assignments, used to following clues from incomplete details. Yet this time, what unsettles him is not only the nature of the job, but its timing. It comes too quickly after his exchange with Bill, as though someone has been watching every move around him, or as though Marcel already knew Bill was getting close to something dangerous. Joey's growing unease deepens as he realizes this may not simply be an investigation into Randy and Haley. Bill himself may be the real center of it. Or worse, all of them may be nothing more than pieces in a much larger game Marcel has already moved several steps ahead on. Joey is the kind of man who knows how to survive in gray areas. He understands the unspoken rules of those who collect secrets, and he knows that the more you discover, the harder it becomes to walk away. But this time it no longer feels like work. It feels like a trap. Every detail he notices, every small sign between Randy and Haley, every flicker of Bill struggling between suspicion and restraint, seems to be forming a pattern someone wants him to see. Not so he can stop it, but so he can be drawn into the middle of it. Joey begins to understand that he is not only tracking information, he is being tested. Will he stay loyal to the one who gave him the assignment, or to the truth he uncovers? Will he maintain his professional distance, or allow his feelings for Vanessa and his sympathy for her family's unraveling to cloud his judgment? That is what disturbs Joey most. Because once work touches private life, every decision becomes stained. If Joey is trapped in uncertainty, Mona is thrown straight into a moment that destroys illusion. What she sees between Randy and Lynette is not merely an embarrassing situation. It carries the force of a fracture in trust. For a long time, Mona has sensed in Randy a kind of brokenness that was hard to explain, an insecurity that always kept him one step behind. As though he himself did not believe he deserves anything clean or good. That was exactly what once softened Mona. She saw, in his awkwardness, his rough edges, and his repeated withdrawals, part of a man trying to break free from the bad circumstances around him. But what she witnesses by accident completely distorts that image. Whether it is an unhygienic act, a shady deal, or a secret arrangement laced with betrayal, the important thing is that Randy is there with the face of a man who is not innocent. Lynette is not standing beside him like a stranger. She stands there with the far too natural ease of someone accustomed to manipulating, accustomed to sharing secrets outsiders are never supposed to know. That moment throws Mona from fragile trust onto cold ground. What hurts most is not jealousy. It is the feeling that she willingly believed in a better version of Randy while he quietly maintained his ties to the dirty world she had hoped he wanted to escape. From there, Mona's hurt quickly turns into a slow-burning anger. She is no longer sure whether what she saw was merely something shameful or a sign of something far more serious. But whatever it was, it is enough to force her to look at Randy with suspicion. The softness she once had is replaced by a cold distance. And that distance is what makes things dangerous. Because when a woman no longer wants to hear explanations, every excuse becomes meaningless. Mona now stands at a painful crossroads between remaining silent so she can observe more, or confronting Randy directly and forcing him to reveal his hand. But no matter which path she chooses, She knows she cannot return to the ease she once felt. The attraction between them has been poisoned by doubt. Meanwhile, on Bill's side, the temporary calm with Haley is exactly what makes the situation more uncomfortable. Bill tries to behave as though he has put his suspicions aside, as though he wants to focus on family, on the fact that his children are trying to accept Haley, on the fragile softening of an atmosphere already marked by too many clashes. But the effort is too forced. What Bill knows or suspects has never really left his mind. He has only set it aside for the moment, waiting for a better opportunity to see everything clearly. That is why, when a member of the Dupree family appears with undisguised irritation, that fragile balance is immediately threatened. That person does not need to say much to apply pressure. A mere presence, a sharp stare, and a silence full of judgment are enough to make Haley understand that she is far from accepted. The discomfort here is not only about the relationship between Haley and Bill's family. It also lies in the fact that Bill is being forced to choose where he will stand if tensions explode. He can continue playing the man who wants peace, who wants his children and the woman beside him to coexist in some comfortable order. But deep down, Bill also knows he cannot delay the moment of facing the truth forever. What torments him is the realization that the sympathy Naomi and Chelsea have shown Haley may have been built on the wrong foundation. If Haley is truly involved in something with Randy, or if she is simply hiding another layer of herself, then Bill will become the biggest fool in his own story. The pride of a man who once believed himself sharp enough to read everyone around him is now under threat. So even if he appears calm on the surface, inside Bill is already a state of barely restrained explosion. One more small sign, and all of that repression could become a destructive rage. Haley senses that before it is ever spoken aloud. The air between her and Bill grows suffocating not because they openly argue, but because both of them are trying to hold on to their roles longer than they are capable of. Haley can feel that she is being watched differently. She may understand that the suspicions have not died. She may also be hiding a fear much greater than simple rejection. If there truly is something connecting her to Randy, directly or indirectly, then Joey being drawn into the investigation means an entire chain of truths may soon be exposed. The irritation from that Dupree family member is therefore not just about family discomfort. It is an alarm, a signal that the layers of protection are beginning to fail. At the same time, Anita's home carries a very different rhythm, slower, but no less intense. The exhaustion after chemotherapy has made the woman who was once the emotional pillar of the entire family visibly weaker, yet physical weakness does not mean her instincts have dimmed. Anita still looks at others with the same penetrating clarity as before. In fact, in this fragile state, she seems even more able to see through the defenses younger people build around themselves. When Cod comes to care for her, on the surface it looks like a simple act of love, a precious gesture from a granddaughter supporting her grandmother through hardship. But beneath the surface, Cod also needs somewhere to lean. She carries pressures she cannot easily speak aloud. It may be helplessness at seeing the family fall apart. It may be fear of the conflicts spreading across Fairmont Crest. It may be a personal secret she is still struggling to control. Whatever it is, Anita notices. Inside that room, with the smell of medicine still lingering in the air, the bond between the two generations becomes something deeper. Anita does not only need care, she becomes the mirror that forces Cod to stop lying to herself. She understands the kind of pressure that makes a young woman act strong while actually feeling exhausted from carrying too many expectations, too many fears, and too many things she does not know how to share with anyone. Anita's wisdom has never rested in comforting words. It lies in her ability to touch the wound directly and force the other person to look at it. For Cod, that becomes both salvation and torment. Because sometimes the hardest thing is not getting through pain, but admitting that you are weak, that you need help, that you are afraid if you keep walking the path you are on. One day you two will become part of the chain of mistakes suffocating the family. All of these lives, though they may seem disconnected at first glance, are in fact moving toward the same point of collision. Deanna returns carrying suspicion about Dead's death and anger toward Vanessa. Joey receives a new assignment and is pulled deeper into an investigation that may reach Randy, Haley, Bill, and connections no one has yet dared to fully expose. Mona accidentally witnesses an ugly side of Randy, pushing their already fragile connection toward total collapse. Bill and Haley are being trapped in an increasingly suffocating space where outward politeness is no longer enough to conceal the feeling of losing control. Kot sits beside Anita, but in truth she is the one being pulled back from the edge of her own breaking point. Each of them holds one piece of truth, one fear, one suspicion. And the real problem at Fairmont Crest has never been a lack of love or a lack of loyalty. The problem is that here, everyone loves in ways that can wound others, and everyone stays loyal to something that may ultimately betray themselves. Deanna may have returned to heal things, but the longer she stays, the more likely she is to dig up the very suspicions that could tear her family apart. Vanessa may want to pull her daughter back into her arms and back under this roof, but the harder she tries to hold on, the more likely she is to reveal the hidden corners Deanna is hunting for. Joey may believe he is sharp enough not to be swallowed by Marcel's game, but every step he takes is tightening the circle around him. Mona may choose silence, but the silence of a disappointed woman is often more dangerous than any confrontation. Bill may continue hesitating between feeling and suspicion, but a man whose pride and sense of control are both under threat will sooner or later react in an extreme way. And Haley, whether guilty or not, is drawing closer to the moment when she can no longer remain in the gray zone. Even Anita, who should only be resting, becomes the center of confessions, quiet pressures, and painful choices. The anger in this story does not erupt into a loud war right away. It simmers. It slips into glances, evasive gestures, and unnatural silences. But that restrained anger is exactly what makes it so terrifying. It makes Deanna stop seeing motherhood as a safe refuge. It makes Vanessa want both to defend herself and to rebel against her daughter's judgment. It makes Joey begin to question both the man who hired him and his own instincts. It makes Mona feel humiliated for trusting the wrong person. It makes Bill appear calm while something far more violent grows inside him. And it makes Kot realize that not all battles happen out in the open. Some of the cruelest ones happen inside a person's own heart. When they are forced to choose between what feels comforting and what is right. Fairmont Crest is entering a phase where every secret is beginning to demand a price. No one can keep hiding forever behind grief, duty, the performance of goodness, or vague excuses. Deanna has returned, and that alone is enough to make what was once buried begin to move. Joey is digging deeper, and the deeper he digs, the greater the chance he will lose any road back. Mona has seen too much to remain innocent. Bill is standing between family, love, and suspicion, but every bridge he built may collapse at once. And Anita, in the weakness of her body, is perhaps the clearest-minded of them all in recognizing that the real storm is not outside the elegant gates of Fairmont Crest, but inside the hearts of the people living there. And once those hearts can no longer bear the weight of lies, betrayal, and scheming, the collapse will not happen quietly. It will pull everything down with it, from delayed reunions to relationships that once seemed salvageable, from fragile trust to the kind of power that once made everyone believe they were untouchable.